Okay. So I just want to say welcome to our Council Environment Committee meeting, and roll call shows that, even though I can't see them right now, Ben, there you are. Ben, Megan, Dan are on Zoom, and myself and Belle are here at Council Chambers. So the first thing that I want to do is, first of all, we have a group of students who have done some research for us about recycling in the three student complexes, the big complexes. And we had talked last year or maybe the year before about how we could get a kind of a more robust recycling program at those units. And so this group of students, I'm going to have them introduce themselves, have prepared a little presentation for us for their project, their final project with it's Professor Tim Waring's class, actually. And it's economic sustainability. Is that the course? And so I invited them to come present to us in case this is a topic that we want to take up again. I've had a conversation with Sophie since they've started their research about really looking at getting this 1/3 of our population in Orono that has no access to recycling. So the students did a project only with the three big complexes. We still have Talmar, we have Hasbrook, we have the other one down here in the corner, I can't remember the name at the moment. Dryden, who have not, I was thinking of the other one, but anyway, Talmar, who have not had access to recycling. And so just trying to look and see what they've discovered with the student housing is a beginning for us. It's a beginning to start that conversation back up again. And one that Sophie, our town manager, is also willing to look into again, as far as maybe even mandating or writing an ordinance that requires recycling in Orono, in all of Orono. So anyway, I'm going to turn this over to the group over here. So if we can see them, and I'd just like them to introduce themselves, tell us what your major is, and maybe, yep. I think I've done enough talking. Okay.
Yeah, so we are, like Ms. Cheryl said, we're a group of students from UMaine, and we've been working on this project for this semester. My name is Catherine Hofta, and I'm a junior. My major is Human Dimensions of Climate Change.
My name is Benjamin Chenard. I am a economics and political science major, and I'm a junior at the University of Maine.
I am Nick Hirschbein, and I'm a senior at UMaine, and I'm studying environmental science.
And I am Angelo Filone, and I'm a second year at the University of Maine, and I'm studying environmental science.
So yeah, so we are privileged to be able to come and share what we've been learning this semester. Disclaimer, this is pretty general and broad, kind of just scratching the surface. We discovered as we were doing some of this research that there are a lot of places that could have had more attention or been dove in deeper into, but we wanted to kind of get a bigger picture. So that's what this is. Go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, so the problem we were trying to tackle, as Cheryl said, the three largest kind of student housing complexes in Orono don't really have access to recycling. So yeah, the Ave, Orchard Trails, and the Reserve. And they have said that the problems that they have run into, or they don't really want to do recycling, is they think students wouldn't be responsible, wouldn't really use them well, or like trash would get mixed in with the recycling and things like that. Obviously, the bins take up space for their parking lots, And a big one, obviously, recycling services will cost them money. So at the moment, residents right now are just, their only choices are to bring their recycling to campus or to throw it away, which I think a lot of people, but yeah, we'll see later, kind of what the statistics are on that. But so this kind of problem contributes to like unnecessary like amounts of trash. Yeah, so our overall goal was to help figure out how to get recycling at these complexes. And we focused specifically on the reserve and orchard trails because that was kind of the amount that we thought we could tackle. And that's obviously mostly pertinent to us being students. And so to do that, first step was to just get some knowledge on how kind of the recycling process works and how these systems work. So we did some research on that. And then we wanted to know kind of what the costs and benefits of these complexes providing recycling services to their residents would be, so that we could kind of say to them, these are some good things, these are some bad things, and this is why you might want to do it.
Yeah, so what we did, as Nick said, we did some research. We wanted to have a better sense of what recycling looks like in general in the country. We know it's changed in the last few years with China's national sword policy, etc. So yes, we did some research on that, and then also like the Fiber Bright plant in Hampton, figuring out what's going on with that, and then also in the specific area. So which services these complexes are using already for trash. They're using Casella and WM. The Orchard Trails and the Ave are using Casella, and the Reserve is using WM. And so we did that sort of research. And then we also developed a survey and sent it out to students about recycling and how accessible it is to them. We were hoping to send it just to the residents of these complexes, but we ran into some hiccups. So we sent it more broadly and just picked out the ones that were we were able to see who lived at the complexes and who did. But yeah, that's what we worked on. So some of the stuff that we discovered about the complexes, the Orchard Trails, they have 8 8-yard dumpsters that get hauled away weekly. That's what is up there. It's, as you can see, they're quite big. If we're recycling about 30% of waste right now in Maine, that means that a third of that is unnecessarily being thrown out. So that is a lot. Also, when I went to the Reserve, I was talking with someone who lived there, and I was talking with some of the people, and they're actually having a real problem right now with their trash management. They have a trash compactor, and a lot of people don't know how to use it, or it gets full really quickly. And so there was trash like being left beside the trash compactor, and they were thinking of having to install cameras and like enforce fines and stuff. So what they have right now isn't quite working. And in general, I was looking at Casella and WM and what they offer for recycling services. Both of them had like similar pricing, because that's a big deal. And recycling containers are about 30% less than waste containers, and then strictly cardboard recycling, so containers just for cardboard, which is kind of like the ideal because they have slits instead of like you open it, put stuff in. So it reduces contamination percentage. So bins for just recycling or cardboard recycling were even cheaper than general like plastics and glass and all that stuff.
You can tell me to go to the next slide anytime.
Yes, I feel like I had something else to say about that, but oh yeah, so Casella and WM are competitors. Obviously, when we were talking with them, we could only get so much information without actually being someone who pays for their services. I would get to a point in the call where I had to like put in a number, like my account number, and eventually I'd have to say, well, actually, I'm a student at UMaine. I actually don't have an account with you guys.
Did you manage to get any cost information?
So we did, it's in our report that Cheryl has access to. I don't quite know the numbers off the top of my head. But like I said, the recycling bins in general are about 30% less than trash bins, and then cardboard recycling, at least with Casella, were I don't know, they were maybe 40% less than the trash bins. But that information is written down. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Can I get access to that report at some point?
I'm looking for it right now. I'm pretty sure I've got it. So yes, I'm gonna see if I can send it to you.
So Cheryl, you can't send it to him because you're not the owner of it. So they'll have to send it
I can
after.
certainly send it out to people who
Yeah.
want, if you.
I'll
I
send
can
you
share, I can share it though, because it's
No,
in
you-
Google Doc.
You
if you-
can't because you don't own it. You don't
On
have
Google.
to share it.
Oh, okay,
So,
If you get me a list of emails, I'll send it out to
Okay.
everyone who wants it.
sure.
So this is some of the survey questions we did, and this is where I really want to highlight how we would suggest anyone who picks up this project in future semesters, which is an option as we are able to create a longevity plan and send that forward so that other people can pick this up if they take this class again. We were not able to get the survey directly to the people at the complexes because the complexes were not able to send out anything like that to their residents because of the agreement they have with what they're allowed to email to their residents. So the way we got these numbers instead is we sent the survey out to the departments, to some of the departments that we have connections with at the University of Maine to send to their student body with a question that kind of filtered out the people who were living at Orchard Trails, the Reserve, and the Ave. And the unfortunate thing about that is that those are also the three smallest slices of the pie there. And what we really want to do is expand that slice of pie, but we do have some numbers that we got from them. So these next 4 slides that I have are all from, these were only asked to people who live at those three complexes. This first one, how accessible would you say recycling is to you, is definitely skewed towards the lower numbers. People do not feel that recycling is accessible to them, which makes sense because recycling is not provided. We asked about recyclable cans and bottles, and this is where we found a bit of a hurrah, I guess, in that people overwhelmingly use redemption services to cash in on their 5 cents per bottle. So we weren't really worried about that, but we were curious. Although there is still a decent slice of people who choose to throw them away, which I find interesting. Now, recyclable cardboard, on the other hand, 60% told us that they throw it away. And some people do choose to bring it to campus. So that's also, I guess that part is working as the complex is intended, but 60% is a bit disheartening, if I'm being honest, with how many people are throwing cardboard away. And this one, again, only 15 responses, but 15 people agreeing on something is something I would consider a success. And
Just sample population.
I'm happy to see that 15, that not one person out of 15 said they wouldn't use recycling if they had access to it at their apartment complex. Now, these next 2 questions were asked specifically to the people who do not live at those 3 complexes. It's pretty split down the middle. if people have access to recycling or not sure. But that's definitely different from what we saw in the bar graph with people who do not feel like recycling is accessible on the complexes. And finally, if you were to move into an apartment complex close to campus, like the 3 that we studied, would you like to have easy access to recycling? And again, the overwhelming majority would like to have access to recycling, with a small portion just not really caring.
Don't care about that.
But they didn't say no.
No one said no, which is, I think that's a little bit of a win there.
So I'm just gonna highlight some of the things that we did not get to and some of the things that we had hoped we had gotten to during the course of our project. So one of the things that we were really banking on, hoping that we could really get some outreach on this project was with working with the student organization through the university called SEED, which stands for the Student Environmental Action Department. And they basically are in control of a lot of the sustainability policy things that go on the campus, on school, and they try and push for sustainability policies and action and different things on campus. So we weren't actually able to get in contact with them, and that would have been something that would have benefited our contact to the students living at the complexes to get some more information for the survey. And so, like in the bullet point below that, it also just says like we weren't able to contact as much residents as we were hoping we were able to, because that information would have really benefited kind of us and given us something that we could really show to the complexes that students were willing to kind of participate in recycling if they had the opportunity. And then something we also missed out on, and given the opportunity in our class, was kind of an educational outreach portion of our project, and we were kind of hoping that we could have made something to kind of promote this lack of recycling access to the people around student housing complexes or on campus. And that was something that we just didn't happen to get to during the course of our project. And then one thing that we also did not happen to do is just get access to more precise information on the costs and different aspects of the project that would have been important for the implementation of recycling at the complexes. So some of the takeaways that we had from the project would be that we had an opportunity, and this whole project is an opportunity to drastically reduce the amount of waste that's being put into the landfills in the Bangor and Orono area. And that is something that we were really hoping to accomplish through the goal of this project. And another takeaway we had was that the housing complexes were challenged by kind of these 3 factors of the cost, students participating and kind of going along with the recycling and doing it well, and also the space needed for the recycling bins and everything. And additional takeaway would be that the students living in the complexes did in fact possess that desire to have recycling if they were given the opportunity. So that's something that we could present, and that's something solid that we have to present to the student complexes. One thing that we also have and kind of did through our research and kind of discovered that would be a short-term solution, but something that we had mentioned already was the cardboard, and something that we had looked into was the cardboard slits. And that was something that we had figured that it would be easy to implement in the complexes and would be something that wouldn't be kind of as drastic as putting recycling bins into these complexes, but it would kind of be a push towards something greater. And the last thing that we kind of had was if the complexes could be compensated in some way, or if they were pushed, they could eventually be pushed to, like I said, designate spaces for these bins and kind of go along with the recycling process.
Good. Another word we might use there is incentivized. They
Yeah.
had some incentives to recycle. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say that is all. One thing I would like to mention and tack onto that is the local managers of the complexes all seemed to be on board and want this as well, and have noticed the lack of it and the need for it. But really money was the issue. I believe that the complexes work through brokers who then contact and work out price stuff with Casella and WM. And so I don't know the inner workings of that, but the numbers that I was able to find, just doing research on my own without directly contacting the providers, were very different numbers than what I heard when I was talking to one of the managers of the complexes. They were very different numbers. So I don't know where that comes from. But it seems like, again, there was a positive, we didn't kind of hit up against any resistance. Everyone seemed to kind of want this, but money was ended up being kind of the thing that they kept coming back to. So again, incentivize, whatever that might look like, because I don't know, we don't know the inner workings of this, but just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, thank you for listening.
When you said the numbers were drastically different, were they higher, were they lower? Where was the?
So what I
the
found
disparity? Yes.
seemed reasonable.
Okay.
And what was told to me was way more.
Okay.
So again, but I wasn't able to contact the local WM. This was with WM,
Waste
the
management,
reserve.
right?
Yeah. So the only stuff I found was on their website. And I wasn't able to contact like the local stuff. So I don't know. And
Right.
WM does, I think they don't have recycling. They like use someone else.
Waste management and Casella are partnered. So
They are?
yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting, because when I talked to Casella, I asked them, I said, so I know WM like doesn't have them, so do they use you? And the guy was like, he was like, no, like we're competitors sort of thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I wonder who WM uses.
Yeah.
So I don't,
Casella.
yeah.
That's interesting.
So-
I wonder what-
It's very complex and complicated. Do any of the committee members have any questions? I know Dan.
Yeah, I got a few.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm having a hard time understanding how money is the issue, because cheaper per ton to get rid of recycling than it is to get rid of trash. So if you can divert your trash into recycling, it should cost you less. So I always find that argument interesting. And generally these companies supply the dumpsters. They sort of rent them to you, and so you don't actually have to buy them. But yeah, I'm not convinced with that argument.
They are
But
commercial
also,
waste, right?
another
They're-
thing-
They're considered commercial
Another
waste.
thing that I found extremely interesting with your results was how many people report bringing their recycling to campus, because that's actually illegal, because the university has to pay to get rid of its trash and recycling. So when people are doing that, they're costing the university money. That's why the complexes should be responsible for it. And I think it's a shame that the town never mandated it, mandated recycling for these complexes, but I don't know if that's possible.
It is possible.
So, yeah, then the other thing that may end up solving a lot of these issues is there's a potential for a new facility to open up in Hamden, which is a true single stream facility where you throw everything into one bin and then they pull all the recycling out on the other end. And that may end up actually working at some point.
I don't think Orono is going to do that, Dan.
It might end up
But
being
it's the
cheaper. to do that.
same, it's the same process through, but currently Orono will keep recycling separate from the waste stream. But the same equipment process.
Right.
So
Yeah,
what
so-
Bangor did was they said that they would have just a single stream waste and recycling commingled. And Orono said, no, we'll keep ours separate.
And then there's a benefit to doing that. It's half the price to deliver pre-sorted materials to that facility. If you go with a single stream route, you pay the full price. But if you pre-sort your recycling and deliver it as clean recycling, you get a big financial incentive to do that.
Right, except you pay for a hauler twice a week.
That's
So
right,
there's-
and you need clean compactor trucks so that you don't contaminate the recycling.
And you have to count on people keeping the recycling clean.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the legality point that you made, I thought that's really interesting because I actually questioned that myself and didn't find much of an answer because when I was talking to the complexes, that is what they told me, that they recommend to their residents that they bring their recycling to campus. And I thought in my head, I was thinking, that doesn't sound normal. That doesn't sound like the status
Glad we're
quo.
recording this, because yeah.
Yeah, I was, that's one reason we were hoping to reach out to SEED and student government is because we were hoping to answer that question. Do they allow people to bring their recycling there? So, but yeah, I don't know.
So the answer is no.
So it's good to know, yeah.
Dan, you want
Yeah.
to tell the students what you do on campus?
Yeah, I'm the director of sustainability for the campus. So I work with facilities management on like building energy efficiency, recycling, trash, basically anything to do with
He's
sustainability.
the guy.
I'm also the faculty advisor for SEED and Green Team, Divest UMS, Permaculture and Gardening Club, Terrell House Permaculture Living and Learning Center. I work with Tim Waring a fair bit, Sharon Klein. You know, I do guest lecturing. I do all kinds of stuff. And I do some climate research too. I drill ice cores. So yeah, I've been involved in the recycling sort of saga for the town and the campus for a long time, because I don't know if you all know about the MRC and the Municipal Review Committee and the Hamden facility and what happened with that and how that got built and then sort of went bankrupt after 6 months, and now it's in receivership and now they're trying to sell it, and if it doesn't sell, then the MRC is going to basically buy it and operate it themselves. So there's a lot going on, and meanwhile, we're supposed to be sending our trash to PERC, but PERC keeps shutting down, and every time they shut down, our trash goes to Juniper Ridge, and it's just a mess. It's a complete mess. But
Right now,
but we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of choice because the
Right.
problem is there's only one recycler in the area, and that's Casella. So until the Hamden facility opens, our hands are tied.
And the recycling right now is roughly, it's not quite twice the tipping fee. So it costs almost twice as much to get rid of a ton of recycling as it does to get rid of a ton of waste.
Right, it's about 173 right now per
You're
ton.
kidding. It used
for
to be.
recycling. No, it's more. It's right now it is. But the contract, yeah, but when the first contract came out, it was half, the recycling would be half, so $35 a ton to $70 for municipal solid waste, MSW. So yeah, but everything's skewed at the moment. And I think PERC is taking every other week, or they can only do 2 weeks worth of all of our waste. So that's when the rest of it gets bypassed. It gets diverted to Juniper Ridge. It is a mess. It is
Yes.
definitely a mess. Ben and Megan, I don't see Lee. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any questions for the students?
Yeah, I've got one. First, thank you for doing this. I know one of the things that you cited for reasons these complexes said no to this was that they didn't think students would use it properly. Since at these specific complexes, my understanding is there's never been recycling at them. Is this something where, did they have like actual evidence to say, like maybe at other complexes they owned, this was an issue, or is this just a hypothetical concern of theirs?
I only heard one circumstance from one of the property managers who said something about Orchard Trails having something at one point, but she didn't really provide much on when that was, or like for how long, or even what the rollout looked like when they tried to do it. So it seems to me more like a problem of mistrust between the residents and the property managers. And less about actual like historical evidence of things happening. It just seems like a product of mistrust between the people living at these complexes and the people managing the property.
Some risk aversion.
I can also tell you, Ben, that when we had this conversation with a manager at Casella, he expressed that very same thing, that concern that people would misuse the recycling bins based on experience at multiple other, not necessarily complexes, but you know, centralized waste disposal areas, you know, whether it's a business or a public disposal area. If it's not, he said, if it's not monitored, then it's likely to be inappropriately used, particularly if the dumpster is full and the
Right.
recycling bin is not, the trash bag just goes in the recycle bin. So it could also be that what is coming from the housing complexes is actually coming from the sales reps of the waste disposal companies.
And if I can add, just like firsthand being on the complexes and stuff, like I visit Orchard Trails a lot, and I have just a vague like knowledge of what I've seen of the dumpsters and how people use them whenever I go, and generally isn't the best way that they treat them and throw their stuff out. Like I know that Orchard Trails had to hire security for the year because of the way that people have been managing the property and just throwing stuff all over the place. So it really, I think, comes down to something that they have to do with their trusting the residents that they'll actually sort their recycling out from their garbage and not handle it and use it improperly.
Right. And I think that's an area where the education bit would maybe play a role. I mean, obviously, people are people and people are stupid. So it's not going to solve all the problems. But I feel like if there was a lot of information available about what was recyclable and what isn't, because I find myself often not knowing if something is recyclable or not. And I'll have to ask someone or just err on the side of caution and throw it in the trash. And so I think that's an area that could be expanded upon. And then also, like I mentioned with the reserve, with their trash drama, finding the residents, and I don't know if OT was gonna try to do that with their people too, but I feel like there are ways to mitigate that or to tackle that bit, but I don't know if that's on the forefront of the complex's minds.
Good. Megan, how about you? Do you have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, I guess sorry. I'm not sure who this should be directed to. If this recycling is just cardboard, is that a cheaper alternative than waste? Because it seems like that's something that might be, from previous conversations, it seemed like that's readily recyclable and usually cheaper. There's like Nine Dragons just down the road was asking for people to bring cardboard into them. I feel like there's even just there, maybe a potential partnership for that. So I didn't know if it's the like slits that you can only put in broken down cardboard, maybe that solves some of the misuse or reduces it at least, I guess. I didn't know if that was I don't know if there's pricing that we know about for cardboard recycling partner.
A little bit cheaper.
That's definitely where we feel like one of the biggest missed opportunities is, not only because of the potential for the slit bins that help prevent contamination and the marketability of cardboard to Nine Dragons, but also just in terms of like cost effectiveness and terms of how many people throw away cardboard at the complex. It's just based on the numbers that we got, and I live at the Ave, and I've seen just a ton of cardboard make its way into these bins, and it's a lot that could be diverted.
So I did try to connect the manager of the Ave with the Nine Dragons environmental services manager. And Julie at the Ave was very interested in it, and Nine Dragons, I don't think ever responded. The other, something that we have heard is they don't have space for the cardboard dumpster. But certainly if, you know, a future group kind of wants to do an estimate on how much of the waste stream is actually cardboard and could be diverted, and so that perhaps one or two of the dumpsters could be replaced with cardboard. But the complex is huge, so also you have the, if it's not right next to your building, are you gonna walk all the way to the community center to take your cardboard and recycle?
No, you're gonna throw it in your car, drive it to campus.
And let Dan take care of it.
And let Dan
That's
take care of it.
Most people just open the door in the hilltop lot and just throw it on the ground.
It's awesome.
It's a lot, there's definitely a lot of more focused projects that we're hoping that people take up if, because we presented our longevity plan to Professor Waring.
Right.
And we'd love to see people take up any number of these smaller, more focused projects, because we did a very broad overview, but anything from looking at the waste stream to trying to connect any number of people, there's a few good options for more focused projects here as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know I appreciate the work that you guys have done. Megan, did you have any questions or comments?
I was just gonna bring up the cardboard conversation, but Ben beat me to it. So I think it's a good point too. I mean, if you think about Amazon boxes in and of themselves, it's like, it's just crazy the amount of, and so it makes me wonder how much waste, you know, if for a single sort recycling, how much of that is actually cardboard by itself, you know, because, and I'm actually surprised by Nine Dragons, because they even emailed us, the town, and said, please, you know, let people know to bring us cardboard, you know, and they're getting paid for it. So I'm surprised they wouldn't want to put a bin in any of those, even try it out.
They're probably hoping that people will just bring it there and they won't have to do anything.
They won't have to do anything.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really interested in seeing is actual quote for tonnage dumping rates, because the last I was aware, it was $150 a ton to get rid of trash and $75 for recycling. And then after the Operation Green Sword occurred in China and we couldn't ship it over there anymore, then the recycling went up to the same price as the trash. So I don't know if it's what's changed since then, but last I heard it was like 150 a ton across the board. And this is why the Hamlet facility.
150 a ton.
No,
Okay,
it was 70.
Yeah.
For
MSW.
for the waste. And I think that our contract that is expiring is 135 or 140 for recycling.
Okay, I thought it was closer to 173, even like.
Well,
170,
and that could
175.
be that they, it could be that they renegotiated
Okay, it's possible.
because there was a drastic increase.
Right, exactly. We're in flux right now. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to let you know that I have talked to our town manager. She also is on board with a mandate. If we have to, if there's no, if it's not a voluntary kind of recycling, the town of Orono passed a recycling resolution a couple of years ago that goes along with the extended producer responsibility bill that was passed into law. And so if you are a town that has a recycling program, you are eligible for rebates when they get that program up and running. And so what will end up happening is the producers will be fined for waste that is not recyclable. So that's kind of in flux at the moment as well. Well, it's in transition. I shouldn't say in flux, but it's in transition, and those are some of the things that they're thinking about. So because we passed that resolution, we have every right to say this is what Orono wants, and we need to be, all of us need to be recycling as a town. And it's not just the complexes, it's any unit that's 5, I think it's 4 and under can curbside. Anything over 4 units, a 5-unit building, it becomes commercial waste and not municipal solid waste. And so they pay a different rate, and they work directly with Casella and Waste Management as far as picking up bins and putting bins down and all of that fun stuff. So so it's possible, and I like to use your research as a way to present to council. We'll, when we start talking about this and start talking about the budget, and I have talked to our, like I said, to our town manager, who agrees with you that it's time. It's time for all of us to be more conscious about the earth and what we do to it, and getting things out of landfills and starting to, be responsible human beings. As well as a responsible municipality to the environment. So good. Now, do you have any questions, or are you guys, girls and guys? Oh, I know.
I don't think we have any questions. Just if anyone would like to see the report.
I can email you from
Yeah.
the email you sent to me.
Okay, awesome. I'll get anyone's contact information and send that out through email, so you guys can see the report just like these.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
that should work out.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
you.
for coming in. Thank you for your report, and enjoy the rest of May Day.
Oh,
I don't know
thank
what's
you.
left. What is left for May Day?
Hangover.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. That's what's left. That's what's
Yeah.
left over.
So just, I double checked with Sophie, and it is 130 for recycling and 78 for,
78 for MSW.
yeah,
Okay, so
so.
good. I'm glad it's not that far.
I'm amazed that MSW is that cheap.
Contract still.
Contract.
Yeah.
Thank you
So-
so much.
so much.
Good night. Have a good
night.
one.
Good
Thank
day.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Have
You
a
know-
good summer.
Thank you.
All right.
Belle, do you know if the university gets it at that price
Yes.
because they're in the town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do-
Interesting.
Doing a quick Google map search in terms of there's no space for a recycling dumpster. They never built, like they have a concrete, looks like concrete slab that they have a dumpster on. If you look to Orchard Trails, they have space for like 2 dumpsters, and they have that. It was never built to have more than 1 dumpster near that, so they would have to put in some sort of slab. That I think might get to just some simple sort of thing like a mandate of, all right, when you're putting in this complex, you need to make sure you have a space for, well, a recycling dumpster. I think that's a pretty reasonable request for these, especially for these larger complexes that are, going in. I think that's not a crazy thing to put in there.
Right. I think what I've heard is that it'll take up a parking space. We can't do it because it will take up a parking space. So,
Well,
we can
that-
work
that's
on
a
that. That'll be a project.
Well, the spot, it looked like there are some spots that it would take up a parking space because they didn't plan out ahead of time where the dumpsters would go.
I would think once this Hamden facility gets up and running, it might then be reasonable for the town to mandate recycling. Once there is a couple of options.
I think that there are some waste ordinances that need to be rewritten anyway, once the Hamden facility is back and running again, so.
Didn't they have a meeting today?
They did, yeah.
How's it going? Do you know?
Yeah, I was at the meeting. It's
Yeah,
going
well,
good.
I
I wasn't
think-
at the meeting, I was on the Zoom. I was on the
You were up there.
I was at, well, yeah, they're, well, except they don't put all the participants up
Is
there.
there any progress on the sale?
They have a vetting and a bidding process that's happening right now. So everybody that is going to be part of, anyone who wants to bid on this has a long laundry list of requirements that have to be met before they're even allowed to put in a bid. So I heard that it's getting pared down from like 18 to like 8 to like, whoever can do it. It's a pretty complex, it's a pretty legal, it's a pretty tight list of requirements. They have to know how to manage the plant, or they have to be able to hire an operator. They have to know, they have to have the cash at hand, cash in hand, and to purchase it. And the closing date is June 30th, no questions asked, no extension. So they have to be ready to close on June 30th. So all of this, all of these wheels have started turning, and they are setting up meetings, mostly executive session. They won't be public. They'll be public, but they'll go into executive session. May 18th, I think, is when they're going to start, like, they're going to start vetting, and they're going to
Is that
start.
the bidding deadline?
Yeah, so they've got some deadlines that they have to meet, and they've got some things that they have to do first. So they can't disclose, they're signing non-disclosure agreements. They can't disclose who is looking for it, or what the financial situation is, or any of those things. So so the MRC board will know, of course. So yeah, so the process is starting. It's out to bid, but it's a pretty stringent list of requirements that they have to meet before they can even bid on the facility. And MRC is ready to go as well. So they're ready to go with their bids and their requirements, if in fact they have some people that kind of are ready to go.
Mhm.
So
So it's looking.
it's not even close to a done deal. But my hope is that we do have a community-owned facility. I'm much more amenable to our community being able to have, the facility with people from Maine managing it and people from our communities managing it. So I'm a big community-owned facility.
Yeah. So what are the ramifications of MRC purchasing it and operating it? Would that mean we would have to start paying more for our trash?
I think they'd be able to set their own parameters, would be my guess. And there's also some incentives. So they also need $20 million from the municipalities to kind of put up or guarantee. So they're going to have to be investing in getting the plant back up and running again. And 20 million, I think, is the bare bones. So if they do get the facility, the municipalities will then have to start looking at investing to get the facility back and up and running so that it can be a community-owned facility. And that is not going to be mandated. That's voluntary. Whoever can bring some investing. And then the investment, of course, there's a formula. You'll end up getting, incentivized. The more you invest, the more you get back. And that might be, and I don't know this for sure, but that might be in terms of rates. However, rates, rebates, disbursements. So that's as much as I think I have absorbed in the last couple of
In the last
weeks.
3 or 4
I
years.
am following it. I am following it because I'm interested in it. I'm interested to see what direction it goes in. So, so yeah, but we won't know really until June, for sure. End of June for sure, but probably before the end of June.
Hmm.
And yeah. and
That's
it's
not
maybe
long now.
it's season, so on top of all of that. Good.
Out of
Are we ready?
curiosity- Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ben. No, go ahead.
Did this facility close because of like an issue with the actual facility being able to do what it is, or is it more the economics of
It was
like, much
management.
money?
It was undercapitalized to start with, and they took an extra year and a half to get up and running. And they just didn't have enough funds to operate. They didn't have enough operating capital.
Okay.
To get going.
Yeah, there was some mismanagement issues that really I think was the crux of shutting it down. But you know, according to the board, the MRC board, everything was running, everything was up and running. They got the permits that they needed. They were able to sell the products that they were making.
They were
So-
exceeding targets for recycling and.
Right, so it was unfortunate, but they couldn't keep it running. And so that's kind of where we ended up, which is kind of why I'm in favor of a community-owned facility, because I feel like, and I know Mike Carroll, who is the executive director, he's very knowledgeable about recycling. He's been doing it his whole life. He was working in Canada, so he's got a really nice resume, and he's worked with a lot of companies, and he knows what he's doing. So I have every confidence in Mike, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Talking trash. If there's no more questions, maybe we could move on to the third part, which is the stormwater program overview. And Belle wanted to talk about that a little bit for the Environment Committee.
So
Or Megan?
Megan is gonna actually
Okay.
do our presentation. She says she'll be quick. And Dan and Ben, if you guys already know a lot of this, you can just tell her to hurry along.
I'm going through this on the campus at the moment. I'm about to create a stormwater awareness webpage on the sustainability website. So I'm well aware of it. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So is the town doing the same thing, like doing an outreach push?
So, well, because the MS4, this is the presentation that Megan has, talks a lot about the permit and what we do to comply with the permit. And that education and outreach is just 2 of the 6 BMPs that we have to comply with.
Mhm.
So Megan, why don't you kind of rip through it and see where we get.
Well, it sounds like
Maybe less on the education and outreach bit.
it's going to be much too basic for this group.
That's good.
Maybe
Basically,
not for me, maybe not for me, for Dan maybe, but
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen then. So, okay, can you guys just see the single screen?
Yeah, we can see it all.
We see, not the presentation, we see your PowerPoint window.
There we go. Ooh.
All right, how's that?
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, Belle wanted me to talk through this just for it's one of our compliance measures. So just education and outreach. And then you get to learn a little bit about my job and why I was hired too. So we'll talk about what is stormwater. We'll explain why Orono even has this permit and what Orono does to comply with the permit. So the first section, what is stormwater? This is a great video from the Bangor area stormwater group, which Orono is a part of.
Oh, you didn't share your sound when you shared your screen.
Okay. Let's skip that then. So essentially stormwater, what makes it different than the sanitary sewer is that it's not treated. So when you talk about stormwater, right, it rains, it comes off the pavement, it will pick up cigarette butts, any dog poop, trash, anything that is on the street, it'll go directly into the storm drains and out into the Penobscot River, if you're talking about Orono or in the Stillwater River. So it's not treated. So that's the biggest takeaway from the video. Versus sanitary sewer, every time you flush your toilet, use your sink, that goes into a wastewater treatment plant and that gets treated and then expelled into the river. So why does Orono have this permit? Again, this is, I'm sure, redundant to this group, but prior to the 1960s, there was no federal legislation to protect the freshwater or really the environment in general. So one of my favorite stories, I know this is nerdy, but the city of Cleveland was dumping their raw sewage, and actually all cities at this time was dumping all their raw sewage directly into their neighboring rivers. In this picture above, this is the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, and they were dumping, their spent oils, their gasolines. This led to an extremely polluted river, as shown in the lower picture. And they're picking up a sheet out of the river, and that's all oil slick on there. So it's extremely polluted. Nothing was living in the river. It was free of oxygen, free of plants. And it was during this time that the river had caught on fire, and it actually caught on fire more than a dozen times before the 1970s, which you only hear about the one river fire, but it actually caught on fire multiple times. And it was events like that that sparked the environmental movement and made people rally for the first Earth Day in the 1970s, which eventually led to the creation of the Clean Water Act through the EPA. So now the EPA from the Clean Water Act could regulate discharges and pollutants into waterways. And like I said before, it's not like it was just happening in Cleveland. This was happening all over the United States, especially a little closer to home, the Androscoggin River. And the effluent from the paper mills in Rumford, Maine. And the Johnson administration usually gets a lot of the credit for the Clean Water Act, but it was really the subcommittee from U.S. Senator Ed Muskie, who grew up in Rumford next to the Androscoggin River, his subcommittee on air and water pollution, that should get the credit really for the Clean Water Act. Just a little fun fact for you. I hope you like that, Ben. All right, so we know that the EPA regulates discharges of pollutants into the waters of the U.S. through the Clean Water Act. But the EPA delegates authority to enforce these rules through the Maine DEP, or the Department of Environmental Protection. So the Maine DEP creates our permits, which are reviewed by EPA. So the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, also known as the MS4 permit, which Orono has, was implemented by Maine DEP. And what happened then is once you had the Clean Water Act, you had the MS4 permits that were coming out, and these were coming out to the highly populated areas, so populations that were more than 100,000 people in the 1990s. And then the permits, after a couple rounds of permits, the DEP registered these to urbanized areas, which were determined by the census, and that included Orono, including 30 other municipalities within. So if you're kind of broadening the scope down, you're getting to Orono, and that's why we have this permit. And this permit is only for the urbanized, what we know as the urbanized area. So this is everything east of I-95. So Orono's had a few rounds of permits thus far. The first one in 2003, then 2008, and then 2013. And these are supposed to be 5-year permits, but this last permit year has been extended a couple more years. And so the fourth permit
So,
cycle.
let me just jump in real quick, Megan, to talk
Yeah.
about why the permit has been extended for so long. So they started trying to write a new permit back in 2017. And it is a statewide permit, and the intention is that each permit cycle gets stricter and more stringent regulations. And the town of Orono has no impaired water bodies within its borders. So a lot of the conversation that was going on just didn't affect Orono because neither the Stillwater, the Penobscot, or Johnny Mac Brook are impaired. However, the Casco Bay communities all have lots and lots of impaired water bodies, particularly Long Creek, which is in South Portland and Portland. And there were lots of battles about how the regulations were going to be enforced and how far this permit would take the tightening of the regulations. So much so that even though the permit was eventually issued last year, and then we submitted our notice of intent to comply last October, Megan? Last fall, at any rate. And then
I got here in November.
what's that?
I got here in November.
Oh, that's, of course you wouldn't know. So we submitted our notice of intent to comply, and then DEP issued a draft permit, and then we're back into another round of battles because EPA came back and said, oh, by the way, the plan you have to enforce the permits is not acceptable, and you have to change your approach. So Orono said, that's okay, we will go with how EPA wants to enforce it because it's fine with us. But there are many other municipalities in the state that are still going through battles on you know, how their permit will be issued and enforced. So this is it is good for Orono to stay on the right side of clean water because it makes it a lot easier for us to comply with all the regulations that kind of come out and makes it so that we don't care.
Yeah.
As they get stricter because we already comply.
Right.
Okay, Megan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that was great. So our fourth permit cycle will start this year, July 1st. And again, that's that permit, this MS4 permit is everything east of I-95 in this urbanized area. And as Dan mentioned, University of Maine actually has their own MS4 permit as well.
They're what's called a nested entity. And so there are multiple nested entities in our area. And there are places like Milford that are part of the MS4 program because they have a very small section that is considered dense urbanized area. And places like Ellsworth and Augusta do not.
And Milford does.
And Milford does. So, you know, it's not a perfect program.
No.
Yeah.
Is there, do you want to just really quickly, are there any questions, Ben and Ben? I've seen this before as well, but Ben and Dan, any other questions or anything broader? This is kind of a quickie look at what Orono's doing.
I think she's got a list of the BMPs, Megan, next.
Yeah. Do you want me to move along or keep going from here.
Well, in the interest of time too.
Yeah.
So, because we've got another, but if Dan and Ben are, want to keep going, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
I think this is all really interesting. I don't know about you, Ben, but
I like it. It's good. I didn't know there was this permit specifically.
I didn't know that we were a nested entity either.
Congratulations.
I think I'll carry on then. Like I said, my total portion is only 10 minutes, so we shouldn't be any too much longer. So what Orono has to do for the MS4 permit, it's essentially just the town wants to limit polluted discharge that goes into their storm sewer system and pollutes the river. And we want to minimize that, especially within municipal activities and town activities. So our ultimate goal is to keep everything clean, specifically the Penobscot River, Stillwater River, Pushaw Lake, and Johnny Mac Brook. And our second goal is to avoid any fines that violate the MS4 permit, which can take up to 25, or that violation can be $25,000 per violation per day.
And
Megan,
that's the EPA.
so Megan or Bell, can you give us an example? What's the most common cause of violation currently? Is it like someone dumping oil down the drain, or is it the sanitary sewer overflow, or what?
These would be fines to the municipality, and that's typically for not either not implementing an MS4 program, not complying with the stormwater management plan, not documenting compliance, willful discharge of pollutants into the river by an MS4, well, by any entity, but particularly by an MS4 community. So when Megan said that Maine DEP has delegated authority from the EPA, that is accurate. So Maine DEP writes our permits and is supposed to regulate us, but the EPA can come in at any time and decide that they're going to audit our program, and they have the right to fine us as well as Maine DEP. But what I have, the common violations that I've seen and consent decrees have come from municipalities that knew they had an MS4 permit and did not comply with the things that they said that they would do within that permit. A lot of that is also separating the sanitary sewer from the storm sewer. So you can get fined on the sanitary side and then also fined on the stormwater side.
Yeah.
But we're in compliance.
But we are in compliance. We have a very good program.
That's great.
Yeah, so the big takeaway is we don't want our storm drains to look like this, right?
Right.
So what does Orono do to comply with this? And I'll break down the 6 minimum control measures that we do briefly. The minimum control measure 1 is public education and outreach. So the main message to the public is that, oh, I'm sorry. The main message is what I've kind of already said over and over, is that stormwater is not treated. And so that's what we want to get across to everybody, is that's why it's very important to keep the roads clean and all of that. So the main audience for that is the general public and the school department. The third audience is winter maintenance managers, and we want to have them use data on past history in attempt to reduce salt while still having effective and safe roads, because we don't want all that chloride and salt reducing the freshwater quality. So to get these messages across, we're a part of the Bangor Area Stormwater Group, which is a bunch of municipalities in the area. And we join together so that we can reach a larger audience and have a greater impact as one. So the video that I was trying to show in the beginning, that's an example of that, but also the website has a bunch of other examples of those outreach or the public involvement.
And there's even a video game on the Bangor Area Stormwater Group website page that is like Mario Brothers.
How come we don't have that?
Well, I actually asked them to make it, so we do have that.
So the second minimum control measure is public involvement and participation. So the Bangor Area Stormwater Group meets every month, and that's open to the public. We also post the meeting minutes and the agendas for that publicly, so anybody is able to join that. Another compliance measure that we do for this minimum control measure is the town of Orono hosts a public event. For example, the street and stream cleanup, which is May 21st this year. That counts actually towards compliance for this MS4 permit. And this engages pre-K through 8th grade Orono students to create a poster competition for this event as well. So you're reaching Orono students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, my little one's
Oh,
done
sorry.
something for that before. Also, University of Maine just had Maine Day today. And I
Yeah.
think that there's a big cleanup that goes along with that, and that counts towards our nested MS4 permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
and
now
then-
we'll have to go clean up the app.
And bunch of places on Webster. so.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something else to them as well.
and then lastly, go ahead, Val.
No, go ahead.
Lastly, we conduct storm drain stenciling events. So that picture there in high traffic areas, and it just directs attention to those storm drains and lets people know that this is clean water, this is a storm drain, it's going to the river.
And this picture was done by an Orono High School student. And we discovered this winter that salt strips paint off the concrete in a hurry.
Mm.
So we will figure out a better way to seal it for the next time. But Dan, if Erica is at all interested in connecting with water education or trying to help, we're trying to find a way in. We had talked to Meredith Diamond at one point. And she was like, yes, we can totally do this. And then she became a co-principal. And now we are getting ghosted with all of our emails. So.
Oh, no. Well, Erica is, she's supervising the OHS Environmental Club right now. So that would be a good way.
Excellent. So maybe I will send her an email and see if she can help me find the right person to get in with.
I'm sure she could help. Yeah.
I won't tell her that you ratted her out, though.
I will.
All right, the third minimum control measure is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So this focuses around making sure that there are no connections into the storm water system or that nobody is dumping anything down the system that shouldn't be there. So we do have a stormwater hotline where anyone can call in and report an illicit discharge. So if they see, someone dumping paint down the storm drain or anything like that, people can call in and we can report that. This MCM also requires that we inspect our outfalls. So an outfall is any place that the storm sewer system leaves the MS4 permit and dumps into a river. So for example, like that pipe, this is not one of our outfalls, but a pipe like that would dump into the Penobscot site. We're inspecting these during dry weather conditions to see if there's any flow, because there shouldn't be during dry weather, and that means that maybe somebody has a washer hooked up to it, you're seeing suds, things like that. So we go through and we inspect all of the outfalls during that dry weather, usually around July.
And we do have, and the university as well, has several outfalls that are constantly running because we're essentially built on a wetland. So there's lots of storm sewer system infrastructure that is actually draining wetlands. So we have to test if there's a clear, constant flow just to confirm that this is groundwater that is making it into our storm sewer system. And then we can say it's okay that it's running during dry weather.
How often do you do that test?
So the new permit requires once per permit cycle, right, Megan?
The new permit, yeah, after the first year, the first year we have to determine which ones are running and why they are running. Yeah, and then it'll be wet weather shipments.
Then only once, yeah.
The fourth minimum control measure is construction site stormwater runoff control. So believe it or not, soil is actually the largest pollutant by volume to water bodies, and erosion from uncontrolled construction sites contributes the greatest share. So this is a big deal as sedimentation affects water quality, aquatic habitat, and aquatic life. Therefore, the town of Orono has a land use ordinance that requires anyone disturbing soil to have erosion and sedimentation control best management practices during their construction projects. This is anything over 1 acre, but we're still gonna try to promote anybody who does any project to contain the soil.
So
this-
the town of Orono is, I think, what I've been told is that we are the only community in Maine who has actually fined a contractor for violating this construction site stormwater runoff, and it was the Ave. It was,
They got off to a good start.
yes, they had a struggle. Over $25,000 ultimately, the fines for them, because of the egregiousness of the violations and the multiple violations. So Orono takes it seriously when it comes to making sure that we're not violating it.
Yeah, and so that being said, this permit requires that we do a minimum of 3 inspections per construction project to make sure that those practices are being put into place and they're being kept in place. So that's what Mel was talking about, that then during those inspections, they could be fined as well. So additionally, the 5th minimum control measure is post-construction stormwater management. So after the construction project is done, still making sure that all these best management practices like rain gardens, maybe that they put in their retention ponds or storm drains, they need to be inspected every year for the rest of the time since it's been constructed. So this is just making sure that everything is working properly still. So a few examples of that are the Reserve, the Avenue, Penobscot Valley Dermatology, the Orono Public Works Garage. And so the town of Orono has a post-construction stormwater ordinance that requires those developments to do an annual inspection and then provide that inspection to our code enforcement officer, Pat.
And the school, since they just did construction, they will be another property that has to comply with this. And it's any development over an acre that creates its stormwater management plans that discharge to the MS4, because the Webster Point development has stormwater BMPs, but they discharge directly to the still water, so they are not required to report on the management of those to us.
And our last minimum control measure, our 6th one, is pollution prevention and good housekeeping for municipal operations. So there's a bunch of things that the town does every year to meet this compliance. For example, every spring we street sweep. Actually, we're doing it right now. We street sweep all of the roads to try to get rid of any snow melt trash or winter sand that they used on the roads, and pick all that up so that when we're having these rainy days like today, it's not just getting washed down the storm drains and all that sediment and grit is going into the river. Also picking up leaves and things like that too, just to keep the storm drains clean. Another thing is that we inspect the entire storm water system over the 5-year permit cycle. So we'll go through and check all the basins. We'll clean the basins. We'll make sure that everything is working properly. For example, the picture on the left shows a curb that has a frost heave on it, which obviously is not going to run the stormwater down the street into the storm drain. It could go out into the street and it's not working properly. So maintenance, things like that, to fix and make sure everything's keeping the road safe and draining that water properly. And the department training. So we would provide training similar to this one, but more in depth for certain departments to make sure that they're complying with these best practices. So anybody mowing lawns, make sure that you keep the lawn a certain amount of height to allow for infiltration. Use biodegradable cleaners in floor drains, things like that. So, and that's for each department, kind of gets their own training. Just
And
to
you'll
keep,
notice that we don't wash the fire trucks out on the apron anymore, that they all get washed inside the building because that's where the floor drains are. And that goes to the sanitary sewer, which then gets treated before it discharges to the river.
yeah, there's a lot of this section of the compliance. Actually, there's a lot of trainings. It could triple this training. We're not going to do that. That's all I have for you. That's all. But if there's any questions, we were kind of talking throughout.
I got one question: is how long did it take you to make that presentation?
Bell had it well made, and I just revamped it a little bit.
I think it's awesome. I would love to get my hands on that if you're willing to share, and I'd like to revamp it for the university.
Absolutely, I'm happy to share.
We'd love to share.
I have a few different ones, Dan, so I can send you. You can look through whatever you need.
That would be great.
Great.
There you go. Aren't you glad you're a member of this committee?
I am. There's so many good
Workload.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's your workload in half. Good. Any other questions? It's good to know. It's good for this committee to know what's going on.
So one of the reasons why we wanted to do this today is because our street and stream cleanup is coming. And it is a virtual event in that you can make your own teams and choose your own area to clean up. And on the website, you can sign up, and I would encourage you to maybe gather your neighbors. There are some neighborhoods that are making a challenge out of it. I know Spencer Street does that and challenges other neighborhoods. So, you know, feel free to tell your friends, and you get free lunch out of it. We don't know from who yet.
Okay. And it's virtual this year again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
How
nice
can
that
you have a virtual cleanup?
So what happens is we do a training over Zoom to start with. And then, so last year we had, I think like nine or 10 different, actually it was more than that. We ended up having 130 people out on the street that day cleaning up, and they chose different routes. So there was a birthday party that did Godfrey Drive, like a Spencer Street did Spencer Street, and a big section of Main Street. Other people did Stillwater, the Stillwater Trail. We had people actually working way out on Forest and Essex and cleaning tires out of the ditches. Technically not part of our urbanized area, but you know, still getting important stuff out of the roads and ditches. So if you,
So it wasn't a virtual cleanup, it was a real cleanup.
it was a real cleanup,
Organized virtually. Yeah.
right? Because typically what happens is everybody comes to the town, to council chambers, we do our talk, you do routes that you can only reach from here, and then we all have a barbecue down at the
Right.
library. But we had no idea what COVID was going to be doing in January when we had to plan this.
Yeah.
next year, everybody can all come together.
Hopefully.
It's a community event. It's really fun.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Anything else? I wanted to talk about, moving on, I wanted to talk about window dressers because I want to start that back up again. And I just did a training, another measuring training. And Megan LaSala is going to work with Orono. So Bangor's not doing a build this year. Orono is doing a build this year. I just got,
That's your camera.
can you see that?
Yeah.
So I just got flyers that we want to put around town, at the library, probably down here on the counter. But before any of this happens, I wanted to talk to this committee and to Dan about how we might organize it again this year. We don't have to do this tonight, but I've been in contact with Dave. What I do want is a date. I need to tell Megan a date because they're starting to line up the builds. And so I told her October, and this kind of links directly into the sustainability fair, Megan, that you were talking about. Belle said October was, or somebody said that October was probably a good time to really start thinking about it. Oh, and we got the community resiliency grant.
Yeah.
So we have money now. So, that's probably your big announcement. I'm sorry to have.
That's okay.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we got the grant, so we can move forward with the sustainability fair, however we want to do it. But I need dates and volunteers. So dates and volunteers. So I told Megan I would get back to her. We were thinking October, and it's open. It's wide open. So she said whatever we need. Dexter is going to be in October. So she said wherever we have to get the pick up the materials.
So, and I have confirmed with Sophie that we could have Public Works actually do some of the logistics for us in terms of getting the equipment and all of that
And bringing
here
it,
and,
And I have a call in to Dave over at the Methodist Church. I don't know how much he's doing now, but to pick up that space again.
Yeah, I thought that was a good space.
I think so too. I like the floor, the below floor. And Megan, do you know anything about window dressers? Have you done any kind of, okay, good.
I would, yeah, I'd love to help with this. Maybe I can connect with Megan too and see how I can help, but.
Okay, that sounds, I think I'd love to sit down and talk to you.
Great.
So
Great.
Cheryl, let me give you my 2 cents.
Okay.
So the AmeriCorps program got cancelled for this year, so I'm not going to have a full-time volunteer or any volunteers for that matter.
Right.
But I'm totally willing to, put in a bunch of my time at the build itself.
Yep.
To like supervise the room, and keep everyone on track. I don't fancy doing a lot of measuring.
Right.
So if you can organize measuring, and I'm happy to be like build supervisor kind of thing and help move the equipment in and out of the area, similar to what I did last year.
Yeah, and what Belle is saying is that if we do this as a town, as a municipal effort, that we can get Public Works to go get that with their trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I did it.
So we can tap into some resources. So really just being at the build. And then the measuring has started already. We actually have people on our list, and she talked to Megan about how far out we want to go. And she said she's got some people in Millinocket. I was like, I'm not really interested in driving to Millinocket to do any measuring. So I was thinking VZ, Bradley, Orono, Old Town. I don't know if Indian Island is doing a build this year. I can find out. That's not a hard thing. But if people are interested, and the other kind of part that we talked about is that people are coming off right now heating bills right now as we speak. So if there was a way that we could kind of advertise or send out, like I said, I've got the flyers, the window dresser flyers right here, which I have no problem putting out there, and who they contact. And I'm basically taking the reins for this build as far as being in touch with being in touch with Megan LaSala and things like that, but I really wanted to talk to Megan and Belle about how we can organize that as well, because I know I mean, I'm a counselor, I may not be here. I won't be here as long as you two will. So if it's something that Orono wants to, sponsor as like an annual or however we want to do it, but definitely for the fall, definitely for October. So the only thing I need from this committee tonight is a date. If we could nail down when we want to do this, then I can start getting this rolling out. There will be other measuring trainings this summer, so we don't have to start measuring yet, but we can start taking orders. So I guess what I was trying to say was where people are coming off heating bills this year, and I've already spoken to some people who are interested in the inserts. And we've got some good reviews and we've got some good testimony from people who got the inserts and really love them.
I've had inserts for 5 years.
Yes, and they're white. We have a choice of white or pine this year.
Oh,
Again,
they're bringing white back.
bringing white back. They have, yes, and so
So
they're
another,
starting.
another thing about dates,
Ordering.
I'm probably going to be out of the country for the whole of September. I'm hoping that to go on an ice coring expedition to Peru, and I may be back into the beginning of October. So if you can somehow time it for the second half of October or mid-October, that would be great.
Yeah, I was thinking mid-October, end October.
Yeah,
So
that
whatever
works.
however we can do it. I mean, I know it's kind of far out, but if I can lock down a time, then we'll be all set, and they'll put us up on their website for our Orono build, and we'll be ready to go.
I would say the week of the 17th.
What day is that?
The 17th is a Monday.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know in terms of how volunteers go, if it's better to have the weekends or what. It seems like it would be. But also I felt like last year we didn't have a ton of time on the weekends.
No, that was the church, because there was, I don't know, I had finagled some dates
Okay,
with Dave, so.
so that's
But the
why,
16th can be the day, I mean, if we can have the church for the week, the 16th can be the day we set up, and that's usually what happens. So bring the tools and everything set up, and then the
Sunday.
17th we'll start the build. Is that pretty much how that works, Dan? Set up one day, start the build the next day?
Yeah, we set up on the Sunday, start the build in earnest Monday,
It'll be the
carry on
16th.
through the week, usually have Saturday as like a cushion.
Yeah,
So if
break down and get
hopefully
out.
we'll be done by Saturday, but sometimes there's like last minute stuff. And then
Right.
clean up and clear out on the following Sunday and deliver
Right.
to the next location.
And we did get out of there last year on the Saturday.
Yeah, we
got
did.
out on Saturday and we cleaned up. Everything was done before
Yeah, it
Sunday
was quick.
started again.
They did a couple of last minute wraps on Saturday morning and then cleaned up and unpacked, and then I delivered it to what was it, Deer Isle, I think.
You did. You were ready to go. So if you don't have to do that, if we can get that to happen where we've got some funding.
Well, I'm happy to do it. I mean, that's all part of it. There's so many different parts to make it work.
You get to go to Deer Isle. Get to go to the coast for the day.
Yeah,
Yes, and I took some
driving around Maine.
It's up to David Hart too, so we did some delivering that day too. So the basic premise for Ben and I know Megan, you probably know this, is when people order their inserts, they also sign up for a shift to help build them, to just kind of keep the costs down. So they have gone up this year, like everything else. And we also, as a municipality, I'm also interested, and I can work with council to find a way to subsidize some low-income inserts as well. So now this is in window inserts, and then once we start planning this fair, I'm also working with Efficiency Maine for heat pumps. I mean, I see this as a smaller part of a bigger project. So 1 week would be window inserts, but the rest of October, we'll make some plans to start putting this fair together. Yes? So, so I wanted to bring that to you. So do you want to try for the 16th through, will that work for you, Dan? This, because I want to talk to Dave and get that set up with the church. And then I also want to get it set up with window dressers. Just
Yeah,
lock
let's
down
try,
date.
let's maybe try, 15th through 23rd or something like that.
So 15th is a Saturday.
15th or 16th, we'll probably have to be slightly flexible to fit in with window dressers.
Right.
But yeah, that week
Okay.
is fine. And depending how many people sign up for inserts, we might need more than a week. So we might
Right,
have
and
to cap, we might have
we
to
have
cap
pe-
it.
We have people signed up right now.
Yeah,
already.
so I mean, we can't
Yeah.
do like 1,000 inserts, but we might
Right.
be able to do 300 in a pinch. 300's a lot. But it all depends on the shifts. If you don't fill the shifts, you're not going to do 300 in
Yes.
a week.
Yeah, and I would like to try to find volunteers for measuring as well. And I can't ask Public Works to do that. So our measures all have to be per window dressers, all have to be vaxxed. To go
And you gotta
right now, to go
travel
into
in
homes,
pairs.
and they have to have proof, so.
And you
What's
got to
that?
travel in, you have to travel in pairs.
And you have to travel in pairs, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And like I said, there'll be another training in the summer. They're gonna set up another window dresser training. So we can do that. So that's gonna be first on the list, is getting the volunteers to go in. I am volunteering to go in and measure. I measured last year and I'll measure this year too. So now that I know what I'm doing. And I don't think I messed up. I think I messed up on one. So I'm feeling confident this year. Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Belle, is that something that we can put on the Orono website and make kind of an announcement for any volunteers on the environmental page and stuff like that?
Yep.
I'll give you this so you can have it, so you have it.
Why don't we try to schedule a separate meeting to kind of figure out what are the tasks that need to be done? What is it that Megan and I can do to support it, and kind of drive some of the logistics and organization of it?
Yeah.
And scrape Dan's brain and, but
Ouch.
yeah,
Oh, you're used to it.
I feel like it's what I do to you every time I see you, so you should be used to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I can call and say, this is kind of like what we're looking for. Dave hasn't called me back yet from the church. I'm not sure health-wise, I think he might be, there might be something going on, so I will just keep asking for that, and we can pay for them this year too, so it's not gonna be a hardship. But anyway, the town paid me back last year, so I did get reimbursed for my $75 that I kicked in as a contribution to window dressers. So that's really all I had. But I just wanted to let you know that we've started the wheels turning for our sustainability. And that's all I have. And then there's updates.
Yep, so the quick update is we did get the funding for our community resilience grant, so that puts in money for the regional plan, as well as our sustainability fair. Megan, what else did we put? What else?
Baseline energy.
That's right, the baseline energy assessment. So
Right.
Megan and I will need to write the RFP to do that. And then we'll also want to have a meeting and figure out, since we're not gonna have AmeriCorps volunteers to lean on to develop the sustainability fair, we're gonna need to find a volunteer committee.
I think
So-
a subcommittee.
We'll send out doodles for window dressers and sustainability fair.
Okay. Sounds good. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, I stick it under updates. I wanted to put it on the agenda. is that we have a new Orono Town Councilor, Sonia Berthasell, who would like to be part of this, but she is the director for the Wilson Center. And every Wednesday is not a good, every Wednesday they have community dinners and over there. So Wednesday night is not a good night for her. I told her I would bring to the committee. She thinks Thursday would be good, but if if we switch to a Thursday night meeting, our committee, once a month or whatever, it has to be consensus. I kind of said we all have to agree that Thursday night will work instead of Wednesday night. And that's kind of where I left it. I would love for her to be part of this committee. And she has a lot of good ideas and is really interested in the work that we're doing here in Orono. And so I told her I would bring it to you tonight to see what your thoughts were about changing our meeting time to Thursdays instead of Wednesdays.
I don't have any issues, but you guys are all more busy than I am. So, is it the timing on Wednesday? Like, could this be moved earlier, or is it not?
Oh, I think Wednesdays is kind of out for her, but I can ask about the time. I mean, I'm trying to find a way for her to be part of us, but at the same time, we have switched our meeting dates a few times, and so I just want to make sure that it's that the reason we're meeting on Wednesdays is because we switched from Thursdays. So I'm good. I am good either way. I just want to make sure that, and of course Adriana's not here. I don't know about Belle. I don't know about the space on Thursdays.
It appears to be mostly available, but you've got a ton of budget meetings in May
Coming
and
up.
June
Right.
on Thursdays.
So we may not be able to do it. What about you, Dan and Ben?
I can probably do it. It's the time. It's really the time that's more important for me. Like having meetings that go on this late is problematic because I've got Edmund in the other room,
Right.
bouncing off the wall. But yeah, if we can carry on doing 5 to 6, I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Okay.
The next few months, Thursday would be fine. I'm not sure starting in the fall again, but
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, with school. Okay, but we may run into scheduling conflict anyway with council because we are coming into a budget season, and so Thursdays are typically a day that we also meet.
It's like every
But
other.
I agree with you, Cheryl. I think Sonia would be a good addition. I think
Yes.
she's got a lot of energy and her heart's in the right place.
Right, exactly. And she really wants to be part of this committee. So, I'm just bringing it to you. So I guess I could work out with Belle what a Thursday night, I can get in touch with Sonia. And then of course, Adriana's not here and neither is Lee. But I can reach out to them through email and see if that's something that they can do. But I wanted to talk to you guys first to make sure that was something you could do with your schedules. And that's all I have. Anybody have anything else? Okay, all right.
No, just congrats on getting that money.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
yeah, that is great.
Awesome. Good. Okay, well, we went over a little bit, and so I will, we can adjourn. And Megan and Belle and I can find a day that we can sit down and talk about this. So what we want to do or how the town can be involved.
Yeah, so just so you know, I've got a lot of notes, like planning notes and lists of attendees from past, like AmeriCorps events, like where we had green jobs fairs and outreach
Oh,
events,
good.
things like that. So I've got a fair bit of information, even though it's old. I'm sure some of it will still be useful.
Well, could we, for our next meeting, could that be put on we can put that on the agenda as we can start talking about what this is gonna look like and how this is gonna unfold. And that, I don't think it's too early to start thinking about that in May. And
It's
that
fine
could
with
be-
me,
Okay,
unless there's more important stuff at that point, but yeah. Put it down.
all right. I don't think there's gonna be more important stuff. I think this is the important stuff.
I was wondering, maybe contacting the like Common Ground Fair. I mean, they have all kinds of people that come and talk about energy efficiency and different things like that and set up. I don't know if they would be Orono based, but that group might have a good list of people who would want to come and set up a fair and show people what they have.
Yeah, Mofka.
That's a good, Mafka, right?
Yeah.
And also Efficiency Maine. We need to be in contact with them as well.
And
'Cause they have those lists too.
And also the UMaine Career Center does like green job fairs, and so they probably have a list for those as well.
Okay, I think
We'll end
can
up
put
with
that.
loads of lists.
That's okay. You can pick and choose if you have lots of things to choose from. And then if people are available and dates and things like that, and dates and times, so. Thank you so much. We can adjourn and I will be in contact and I will see you guys at next month, but probably be in contact by email. Okay.
All right, bye
Adios.
for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.